Hello, my name is Braylon Allison, and I'll be sharing about the plague with you. To start, what is it? The plague is a disease that many of us have heard of, but more commonly we hear about the bubonic plague. However, all plague variants are just as important. The plague is caused by a bacteria that emerged around 6,000 years ago, near the New Stone Age era. More specifically, it is called Yersinia pestis. This disease is one of the most destructive, as it almost killed 50 million people throughout Europe in the 14th century. That's almost 40% of the population at the time. While it undoubtedly was one of the top deadly diseases in the 14th century, we still see cases today. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention says that nowadays it is a rare but persistent cause of illness in rural areas in the western United States and in certain regions of Africa and Asia. In the past 23 years in the United States, 15 people have died and over 730 have been diagnosed with the plague. While this may seem like a relatively small number, it still raises a lot of concern when we consider the communicability of the disease and how quickly it could escalate if not contained. We can see that while the number of cases is relatively small to other diseases like the flu, in 23 years we still haven't been able to prevent small but critical outbreaks from happening. The plague is very much an extant and continues to persist every year. This deadly bacteria is transferable by unprotected contact with contaminated materials or infectious bodily fluids, inhalation of droplets from an infected patient, and through the bite of an infected vector like a flea. Many small mammals carry infected fleas, which can be a large reason to why it was extremely spreadable through rodents like rats through the 1400s. Today, fleas are less of a main cause, and it is more common to get the plague from either contaminated materials, fluids, or an infected patient. There are three main types of plagues: bubonic, pneumonic, and septicemic. Bubonic is the most common type of plague, and it is caused by the infectious bite of a flea. This causes the bacteria to travel through the lymphatic system to a node where it can begin replicating. It is characterized by swollen nodes that look like lumps, fever, chills, headache, and body aches and weakness, and rashes. The pneumonic plague is a lung-based plague, and it is the most virulent form, as it is usually inhaled. It is highly communicable in this way and usually is inhaled from droplets from another infected person. It's typically treatable if detected within the first 24 hours. It's characterized by fever, cough, difficulty breathing, chest pain, weakness, nausea, and confusion. The septicemic plague occurs when the bacterium reaches the bloodstream. It is characterized by bleeding under the skin or from the nose, mouth, or rectum, skin lesions, shock, abdominal pain, nausea, weakness, chills, shaking, and fever. Antibiotics and vaccines have been developed to help treat these diseases. However, every disease comes with a human cost. In this case, it consists of limited access to healthcare treatment, less sanitation, and more vulnerability, and even recent outbreaks. In 2017, Madagascar experienced a severe outbreak, resulting in 209 deaths and 2,417 diagnoses in just the month of November alone. The plague in this region is an endemic, which occurs annually. This raises high concern that other large outbreaks could occur soon. One paper states that parameter estimations suggested that even with a small fraction of the population exposed to infected rat fleas, which is around 1 in 10,000, and a small probability of transition from a bubonic plague to a secondary pneumonic case, 3%, the high human-to-human transmission rate can still generate a large outbreak. Unfortunately, with diseases like this, low-income communities are at the highest risk of infection. This is because they are typically less hygienic and allow rats carrying fleas to come into their villages and search for food. They also have less access to healthcare for the necessary treatments to build an immunity and later develop herd immunity. One Ituri mother even said this: "The very existence of the plague here is making us poor. I have to look after my sick child, so I do not have time to go to the fields and farm anymore." This never-ending loop could contribute to the severity of outbreaks when infected people have to come home and not work. Without that money from working, they cannot access health treatment, and the infection continues to spread. But there's still hope. antibiotics and vaccinations have been developed that can easily treat patients who have received the plague. With the proper funding, we can continue to develop these treatments and make them even more available to everyone in need. With the increasing human-animal contact rates, it might expand the rodent and flea habitats, raising future risk around the globe. In all cases of disease, infection knows no borders, and anyone could become infected. Rich, poor, healthy, or sick, anyone can get the plague. Funding this cause increases global pandemic preparedness and strengthens the defenses we have against this deadly bacteria. This can even help develop responses to other similar diseases as well. You might now recognize this quote. She is actually the mother of an infected 2-year-old. Her name is Yaku Adiku. Again, she says this, the very existence of the plague is making us poor. I have to look after my sick child, so I do not have time to go to the fields to farm anymore. She also said that she had seen rats running about her home and that she had even borrowed a cat to try and keep them out of her house. She observed that her daughter was becoming increasingly more sick and hurried her to the healthcare center for treatment. Because she had access to a healthcare center and with the proper funding with capabilities to treat her, she was able to save her daughter from dying and received extra antibiotics for the rest of her family as well. This just goes to show that together we can make sure the plague remains as a story from the past, not a headline from the future. By donating to plague treatment, research, development, and plague education and awareness, you could be helping save thousands of lives worldwide, just like Yako's family. Even modest contributions help scientists and healthcare workers put an end to this awful disease and protect communities across the globe. I will leave you with 2 critical thinking questions. How did the high mortality of the Black Death exert selective pressure on the human genome? How does the success of the modern antibiotic treatment influence the risk of antibiotic resistance development in Y. pestis? Here are all the resources I used as well. I thank you for your time.